Do you love the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast and online community? These creative endeavors are produced by KFUO Radio, the listener-supported broadcast ministry of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. We need your financial support during this year's Sharathon, April 3 through 5, to sustain the work we do to build our community of Lutheran women. Find your place to partner with us at kfuo.org/Sharathon. Listening to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Erin.
And I'm Rachel.
Today it is Sharathon 2025 for KFUO Radio. This is a very exciting time for us. We get to be on the real, actual radio during Sharathon 2025.
Look out, world.
It's so fun for us to be a part of Sharathon. This podcast and our social media on Facebook and Instagram for the Lutheran Ladies Lounge are all produced by KFUO Radio, which is the broadcast ministry of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. We are listener supported, which means that this is when we get to ask all of you, our dear listeners, for financial support so we can keep doing what we're doing. This is a cause that's near and dear to our hearts as the hosts of the Ladies Lounge and me, because this is what I get to do every day with KFUO Radio. And you can give now at kfuo.org/Sharathon. You can see all of the giving levels, all of the special Lutheran Lady thank you gifts available this year. There are 2 special Lutheran Lady thank you gifts, a tote bag and a t-shirt this year. So
nice.
Those are available for you at kfuo.org/Sharathon. And since it's Sharathon, we're having a party today. It is a party plan episode. These are super fun during Sharathon. We get to have a party on top of a party.
Mm-hmm.
And since Easter's coming up, we're going to plan an Easter party for you. And it's like party on top of party on top of party, because we also have another Lutheran lady in the lounge with us today, a fellow Lutheran lady, wife of seminary president Tom Egger, Tori Egger.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us today for the party of all parties, planning an Easter party. And we were inspired to ask you to be a part of our Easter party plan. I think it was actually immediately after Easter last year because we saw your post for your Easter party that you had last year. And we said, this is incredible. We need to have Tori on to talk all things Easter party. And so here we are a year later to talk.
It was a lot of fun.
Easter party. It looked like a lot of fun.
And our church bulletin told me last Sunday that we are approximately 60 days before Easter. So in my mind, it went, okay, I better get started.
That was the
60
time.
days. Yep.
Excellent.
Now, for those of us who did not have the privilege of being your social media buddies for this amazing post-Easter party post, tell us about that Easter party that you shared with the world.
Yeah. So our Easter feast is nothing more than a gigantic, very loud party. Starts about midnight before Easter, so Holy Saturday. Our guests actually arrived at about 11, and the real party gets going about midnight. We have the idea is that it is a sit-down feast. It's not just a mix and mingle sort of a party, but it's a sit-down. Everybody has a place at a table that is absolutely laden with food and treats. From the moment you walk in, you start eating, we start toasting. We did about a 3-course thing. So there was just food upon food upon food. And we followed a bit of a liturgy, which I borrowed from a friend of mine who has done this. It's a part of her family tradition for a lot of years. We borrowed her liturgy and I modified it. So there are hymns in there and poems in there that people can just stand up and belt it out at any point. And the only real rule is that if someone starts singing an Easter hymn, everyone has to sing loudly. It was just a really great time.
Oh, that's beautiful. How many people would come to a feast like this?
So we had 36 people.
Whoa.
Yeah, 36.
That's a party.
And it was
Yeah.
our house looks really big from the outside, but it's not really conducive to that many folks sitting down and eating dinner.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a trick. But my daughter, Stacy, who some of you may know, had
Mhm.
grown up going to these Easter feasts and so she was the one that really has asked year after year after year after year, can we have one? And I finally said, yes, I think this year. I can.
So
So
wait,
she
this
didn't
was the
want-
first time that you hosted one?
So we
Was
did
last
one,
year?
We did one during COVID on that sad Easter when we were online. And just our family.
You needed a
And
party.
we did. And we made a ton of food, even though there were just, 10 of us.
Of course.
And so that was my first
Okay.
go
Okay.
at it. But it was not the same as having a sit-down feast with anybody who's crazy enough to come at midnight. Yeah. So
At midnight, I would have been in bed for about 2 hours before that
I know.
feast
That's
started.
wild.
the thing is,
Like
we were
something out of
always
a book.
invited. Yeah, we were always invited to the feast that our kids went to when they were in high school. It was actually put on by the dean of their upper school and his wife, who had the tradition from her family going way back. And they always invited kids from the school, teachers from the school, and then parents also. But I never. I mean, that is the craziest thing. No. I had little ones at home, and so the time was not right. But I do wish that we had started it a lot earlier because it was very much worth the effort.
Why a midnight feast for Easter? Why is that the mode for this party?
Well, it stems from kind of the Easter Vigil tradition, which a lot of our churches are picking up on now.
Okay.
But they usually end a lot earlier than
they do.
midnight. They don't make it quite to the point. I think it's just about celebrating Easter at the absolute first moment that you can, because it is such a big thing. And so when that day dawns at 12:01, there you are. You're ready to party with people that you enjoy. We had people there that we didn't know, though. It was we invited one gal from church, and her parents were going to be in town, and so they came too. It was kind of a hodgepodge. It was an interesting guest list. Lots of fun.
I love this so much.
See, no, this is a question for me because I am an introvert and I live with a bunch of introverts. And as I think about hosting an Easter feast, part of me gets really excited and part of me gets really nervous. Like I know that hospitality is important in the Christian life, but it's not easy always. So I'm curious, as obviously you are a little bit more advanced level hostess than me, could you talk about hospitality and Christian life and how those two go together? Because I might need some convincing.
Absolutely. Well, let me say first that I'm not an introvert, but I do live with an introvert. I'm married to an introvert, and he has a lot of social things on his calendar already. Like he goes from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. So I do have to be kind of careful with that. It does need to be a balancing act, between caring for him and also welcoming others into our homes at what would otherwise be off times, because he doesn't have a lot of off time, and it isn't an off time for him because of his role, really, no matter what, unless nobody else is around. So yeah, there's a balance. You have to figure out how to care for those introverts. But at the same time, I think there is so much joy and so much blessing that comes from opening your most private spaces, your home, which would otherwise be off limits to other people. When you open your most private spaces to them and invite them in and welcome them, and even especially a step further than that, but welcoming them to your table or to your kitchen, where that's the absolute heart of your private space there. When you welcome people, good things happen. And even the introvert will appreciate that when it's all over. I don't know. There's been a
Yeah.
lot of grumbling in advance of things. but
Introverts
never-
always appreciate parties when they're over.
I don't think he would ever say, I wish we hadn't done that.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Fair.
it's always more of, thank you for making that happen. That was
Yeah.
worth it, you know,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
And I do suppose that if you are an introvert, hosting means that you don't actually have to leave your house. So there is a perk there.
Oh.
You get to stay home and not go out.
That's actually a
Absolutely.
huge perk. I would much rather host a party than go to a party.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can also busy yourself. I
Hmm.
mean, if you're hosting a larger party, not if it's a very intimate one-on-one thing, but
Mhm.
if you're hosting lots of people, there are plenty of things that you can do in the background as you're serving.
Yeah.
And honestly, even though
Exactly.
I'm an extrovert, I think I do like to just be in the background in the kitchen, taking care of the food and that kind of
Hmm.
thing when I'm actually throwing something. I don't know why.
So what are some entry level ways to start practicing hospitality? Even if like an Easter feast is maybe a bit too much of a step for some of our dear Lutheran ladies. What are some entry level ways to really practice hospitality in our lives?
Right. Well, first, I actually think it's important to understand before you start thinking about doing it, to
Mhm.
understand that hospitality really is a mark of the Christian life.
Mhm.
It always has been. And if you read Paul's epistles, you will hear him telling the churches, practice hospitality, offer hospitality. This is from First Peter, but above all, love each other deeply, offer hospitality without grumbling. And there's mentions of this in Titus and Timothy. So it's very much an imperative that Paul and other writers of the New Testament give to the Christians. They will know you are Christians by your love, right?
Mhm.
And bringing people into your home, opening your heart and your home to them is just one way of showing Christ's love to your neighbor.
Hmm.
So once you can kind of catch that vision, that really what it is sharing Christ's love with your neighbor, with the saints around you who need it, then you can find lots of really easy ways to do it. I always say start small and start very, very simple. Hospitality is about sharing yourself and what you have, but you're a finite person with finite resources, most
Truth.
likely, finite amounts of time. So you may not have $500 to spend on an event, but maybe you have $10. What can I do with that $10? Maybe I can bake some cookies and invite someone who looked lonely in church over to share those cookies with me. So just remember, when you listen to somebody who has practiced hospitality for a long time and really enjoys doing it on a grand scale, you're not sharing their gifts. You're sharing your own gifts.
Mm.
And that may be very small, whatever is comfortable for you. I ask people to try to make it really easy. Tom's favorite idea for hospitality when we were young was, let's just invite people over for delivery, pizza, and ice cream. He doesn't like it when I go overboard on things. He thinks it's overly complicated and ridiculous and all of those things. But, you can invite people over for pizza. You could do it every Sunday night and it would become so easy for you because you would, ordering would be like nothing and it just becomes a routine. So that's one idea. I try to tell young wives who are going out to be pastors' wives that a good idea is to keep something in the freezer at the ready. So one really great thing to keep is frozen cookie dough balls. And within 12 minutes of somebody showing up, you can have fresh baked cookies on a plate to share with them. Keep tea that you enjoy. Somebody can surprise you and you at the door and you can say, "Oh, I was just getting ready to brew a pot of tea. Will you have some with me?" There you go. So another tip is to learn to cook. I was terrible. I did not learn how to cook before I got married. And I served some very, very, very humble meals in the beginning. But who cares?
Yeah.
It was still welcoming people into our home. But if you do take the time to learn to cook, it makes this whole hospitality thing, as you grow and your family gets bigger and it seems there are more and more people to invite over, it makes it so much easier if you have just learned how to cook. Practice a couple of things that you like to make. Erin, for you, it's pizza, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So maybe you just want to learn a couple things and, be ready to offer those.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot more to talk about with hospitality and, of course, the party that we promised, the Easter party. There are some more things to talk about with the Easter party plan, but it is Sharathon, which means we are going to take a little bit of a break. This is your chance to go to kfuo.org/Sharathon. Look at those Lutheran Lady thank you gifts. Pledge your financial support for KFUO Radio so that we can keep doing what we're doing here on the Lutheran Ladies Lounge. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge. It is Sharathon 2025. We have Lutheran Lady Tori Egger with us in studio. We are talking about hospitality and Easter party planning because it's nearly Easter and it is time to ramp up for your Easter party because having a midnight feast at Easter sounds quite incredible. We're going to take about 20 steps backwards and actually talk about hospitality for a hot second, though, because we jumped right into the party, which is the really exciting part, and skipped right over.
No regrets.
That's how we do it here. So what is hospitality?
Okay. So lots of ink has been spilled about what is hospitality and how do we do it. I think, in short, hospitality has two sides to it. So first, I think hospitality is definitely an action. It's something we do. And it starts by looking around and seeing all of the good gifts that God has given to me and recognizing them as good gifts. And I'm talking about where we live. So maybe it's a very humble apartment. Maybe it's a modest house. Maybe it's a very grand house. We have food that is a gift to us from God. Maybe we eat mostly rice and beans. Maybe we have mostly red meat and red wine, but we have gifts of food and gifts of drink. And it's just a matter of looking around and seeing what I have been given and saying, how can I share that with other people? Moving into the president's house was very, I could see this very clearly because all of a sudden I'm moving into a house that isn't my house. It is very much a gift. Yeah. I don't feel like I should be there, like I deserve to be there. It feels odd and foreign for a bit, but it's beautiful. It's an amazing home. And the idea that I can open that up as often as I can, especially to the seminary community, to come in and be a part of that physical place is important to me. So it's looking around and seeing what you have and saying, how can I use this to bless others? So that's the action part of it. And usually at its best and at its core, it is inviting people into your home, often for a meal or to serve them something to drink. So usually there's eating and drinking associated with it. There are lots of other ways to be hospitable to people, and it doesn't have to happen in your home. But this is kind of hospitality at its best. I think it's what we most often think about when we talk about a hospitable person. So it's what you do. And then I think hospitality is who you are as well. Christian hospitality is not just an action. It's also a posture. It's a generous and welcoming way of being towards other people. A hospitable person practices hospitality. And it's the same thing you might say a loving person loves, or a grumpy person grumps. So it becomes who you are, and that is then what you do. And I like to think of it too as just almost being a hospitable person is sort of a sieve. Sieve? I don't know what it is.
It's a weird word.
Both right.
Sieve, they are. Through which God's love, Christ's love can flow. So
that's beautiful.
That's hospitality. Mm-hmm. I have a couple of reminders of that. One is every spring, a mourning dove, actually decides that she wants to nest right above my front door. This is my chance to practice hospitality because my affect of hospitality, because my first reaction is that I want to grab a broom and chase that bird away. There are so many other places where that bird could choose to put her nest. It doesn't have to be right there. It's extremely inconvenient. She is very messy. The straw and the bird poop and everything else, it's right there, and it inconveniences me, and I have to do a lot of work to have her there. But I try to say to myself, for whatever reason, she has come here. This is where she wants to be for a short time. It's okay. I can, let her be. I can let her have a spot in my place. I can make a little room for that bird. I know.
I have a mourning dove that has tried doing that for years. And for years, I have tried chasing
It's really not
her
about
away.
the mourning dove, Erin. It's about the people. It's okay.
Okay. So I'm not convicted by this at all. I've let birds nest on my doorstep. I've got a pair of cardinals that's setting up housekeeping in my azalea bush, and I'm not going to prune that bush until they're done with it.
Aww.
However, there are other impediments to hospitality, and I know that a lot of ladies out there share these with me. I have a house full of, wonderful, noisy, messy chaos monsters. And they showing hospitality to them sometimes gets in the way of feeling comfortable showing hospitality to people outside of my immediate household, largely because I'm ashamed and I feel vulnerable not to have my house company ready all the time, not to perhaps have the time to always keep things on hand that could be whipped out at a moment's notice. I aspire to that level of competence, but I'm not there. So what would you say to people like me who say, well, I like Erin, I feel plenty convicted by what you're saying about hospitality. And there have been seasons in my life when I've been very good at it, but right now is not one of them. What do you say to people who are struggling, feeling like they don't have what it takes to host others?
Right. Okay, so lots of things have gone through my mind when you were asking your question. First of all, it's really not about having your home company ready. That's the picture that we all have in our heads. It's because of our own selves that we are embarrassed to show our home as it normally is, right? And that person rings the doorbell and you want to get the broom and chase them away like you might do the bird, because
or just give them a cold drink and say, sit out here on the front porch for like 20 minutes while I wipe down my bathrooms.
Or you could just go and sit on the front porch with them. Hey, ready to bring some lemonade out and sit on the front porch. Will you join me? But what I really think about, I have 6 kids myself. So I know all about, the chaos and the mess. But what I really think about it is, if you think about hospitality as being a gift, as being as sharing what it is that you have been given, your children are a very big part about that gift to you, right? They're very much a part, their gift to you.
Absolutely.
And so you invite them, you share that gift with your needy neighbors or lonely friends, whoever it is, or your family, whoever, you share that. So you allow them to come in to a place that may not look Pinterest perfect, but it is who you are and it's who you're sharing. It's okay. So it's really just a matter of kind of getting over yourself and humbling yourself. And I have been a guest in many places with women who do this very well. It's not something that I'm very good at doing myself, but I pretend like I am. When it happens, you fake it until you make it. And you will still find, I think, just absolute joy in being able to do that.
Well, and Rachel, I do happen to know, because we have sometimes audio evidence of it, that you do open your house to people. It's to your children's friends.
I was going to say, teenagers are easier to host for.
Like, it is.
What I was going to say, and that is huge. That is
all you got to do is get the giant thing of cheese balls, and they are happy.
Absolutely. And it is such an overlooked area for hospitality. I think we like Jesus's disciples want to send the children away. They don't see, it doesn't seem that they are worthy of our time or of our hospitality. It is one of the most beautiful ways that you can be hospitable in the season of life that you are in, and that is to welcome your children's friends into your homes. That too, is even messier than what you already had, right? But it's also messy. It also makes work. But yeah, it's on the whole, how much it requires of you in terms of those social graces that we think about. It's pretty low bar. So that's nice. But those kids, they need it. And maybe even kids, in your neighborhood who are from a broken home, whose dad works all the time and is never home, whatever, you see needs. And it's a great place to be hospitable.
All right. So hospitality, it's good all year round, but apparently it's extra good at Easter.
Yes.
We started talking in our last segment, Tori, about the Easter feast that I guess is now tradition at your house, thanks to your daughter's urging.
Thanks to you guys.
You're right. Now everyone will know that this is an annual tradition.
Right. Party at Tori's house, everyone.
You can come. Just get your name on the list early.
So we talked a little bit about some of the details that the guests arrive about 11, and then at 12:01, or as soon as you can call it Easter, the party really ramps up. You said that it is a sit-down meal, not just a mix and mingle, which of course is a challenge for 30 plus people in any home. It doesn't matter how big it is. But I want to know more about this. Tell me about the decor, about the menu. How do you do Easter right in this context?
Well, I don't want to make it a matter of law or
That's
that you
fair.
should do.
Okay, no. What is one? I don't know. Just tell us more about the party.
This is not law. You can do
Not law. This is one idea.
Okay, you're just making me a little nervous there.
That's okay. Thank you. You are an excellent theologian to have sussed out that distinction.
All right. So how to make room for, we had 36 people. I could not have squeezed another person in, I don't think, although we would have if somebody else had shown up. I had to sell on Facebook Marketplace. You probably saw that post first. I had to sell a love seat because there was no way, and it was an old love seat that I didn't really like. But it has transformed my ability to be more hospitable by getting rid of that stupid big piece of furniture because I brought in 2 bamboo chairs from the porch to replace it. They're very easy to move around or to move out to the porch. But the sofa, I needed to have somebody who, I don't know why they wanted it, but come and take it away from me very quickly. So I kept dropping the price until I got rid of it.
I do remember this.
Yeah. And then we just put set up as many, folding tables as we possibly could. I have some funny stories about setup.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember some things happened while you were trying to set the tables up, didn't they?
Did I tell you? Did I post about that too?
There was one story I know. I
get in a rush and I don't do things properly. And we were trying out different tablecloths and dishes. I have 1,000 thrifted dishes that I was using, real china. And we had gotten the color scheme all done and all the plates on the table. And then I realized that the tablecloths were quite wrinkly. So I decided I should use a steamer. So I'm kind of going around the plate, steaming the tablecloth, but my cord is not long enough. And I'm not going to take the time to go get another cord. So I start yanking the table closer and closer to the steamer as I go along. And then I hear my friend Pam, who was there with me, yell, "Tori!" One of the legs underneath hadn't been locked, and it buckled.
Oh no!
The entire table just went down to the floor at an angle, with all the dishes clattering and off.
No!
And nothing broke except for one plastic charger.
plastic.
The plastic.
One plastic charger broke, but all of the
That's
dishes were, even the
amazing.
drinking glasses.
Wow.
I don't know how, but
It's a miracle.
it was an Easter miracle. Anyway, so there's a lot to setting up. There's a lot of planning, but you want to get to the details about the Easter feast. Actually,
We do want to hear about the feast part of it.
We do want to hear about the feast part, but you know what? Let's take a break right now.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
Because then we can talk all the details.
What a cliffhanger.
Details in part 3.
Cliffhanger. Yes. We have the actual party, and there's a bulletin, an order of service that Tori is holding.
Whoa.
That we're going to get to after.
chosen by Stacy and Henry.
I love it. We're going to get to this after we take another break. You're listening to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast. It is Sharathon 2025. This is your chance. If you've been sitting on the edge of your seat, you can go to kfuo.org/Sharathon and pledge your financial support for us today so that we can keep doing what we are doing. It is Sharathon 2025 for KFUO Radio. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast. It is Sharathon 2025. We are talking Easter party plan, and we are getting to the party in this segment. This is very exciting. We are talking with fellow Lutheran lady Tori Egger, who puts on this Easter feast, well, at least one year. I suppose it's happening again this year.
It is.
Oh, it's happening. All right. We are here for the details. You have what looks like an order of service, which I love. Did you have a name for this?
It is our Easter feast readings, hymns, and poems.
I love it.
From the title.
All right.
So, and I do want to say that that this is something that came to me from a friend whose family has done this for a long time. She was so happy to share this with me, and I would be happy to share it with anyone else if there's a way of doing that.
Yeah.
I modified it quite a bit according to, our layout and our space, but basically it went like this. Some of this I'm just going to have to be remembering. But I think folks started arriving like around 10:45, 11-ish, and we had them gather in the dark outside at our fire pit.
Appropriate.
So the fire was blazing. And the first page of the program says the readings. Outside in the darkness, we remember how the disciples must have felt on Holy Saturday in their confusion, fear, and sorrow. And so people just stood around. I was actually inside scrambling like crazy. So I did not experience any of this. I'm just going with the program. I would imagine that people obeyed the program and stood somberly and in quietness and contemplation. So after they'd done that for just a bit, then we have the readings. And the first that we chose was a reading from Job, a very somber reading from Job.
Mm-hmm.
And the second reading was a word of promise from Jeremiah 31 through 34. And the third reading was were passion readings from Mark and from John, abbreviated, just one short paragraph. And then the last text was a resurrection text, Matthew 28, 1 through 6. So those were our readings. And Tom, my husband, I think, did those. And then, according to the program, he shouted out, "Christ is risen," to which everyone responds, He is risen indeed. Alleluia.
Hallelujah.
And then for the rest, what comes next in the program is a note that says, for the rest of the evening, whenever someone cries out, "Christ is risen," we all reply. So we needed that, I love it. Indication there, but
it's like the toast at a wedding when someone starts clanging glasses. Easter version of that. I love it so much.
It was wonderful. So then the next it says, an Easter hymn is sung loudly as we process to the feast.
Loudly.
So, and that's a big, something that gets said a couple times in here is that this is all about being loud and raucous and joyful. So
that's fantastic.
If you're an introvert, you just kind of blend in with the rest of it. Maybe that's good. So then we sang "Jesus Christ is Risen" today outside as the crew processed from our fire pit up to our back patio, which is where I met them then. We're finally ready to go on the inside. And the next thing is the toast. A poem is read. Oh, actually, I gave some instructions here and then we went inside. So we did the toast inside. So we've all made our way in. I actually had name cards at every place because you couldn't really leave it up to chance with every square inch of your space filled. So it had to be a bit organized. So I think I called them in according to table because there was not room to move around. You're going to get where you're going to sit and then you're going to stay. So we did that. So we got inside and then it is the toast. It says a poem is read and we read Death, Be Not Proud. I can't remember if we did it in unison or if Tom just read it.
Oh, I love that poem.
But anyway, I think in unison would be cool, actually, wouldn't it? And then the host offers the first toast, which was my husband. And then it says, throughout the night, any guest can propose a toast as long as it points us towards Christ and his victory. So that was something else that punctuated the evening.
Very nice.
Toasts. And we had plenty of wine to go around so that we could do all of our toasts and drink some on top of that.
Of course.
And then it says the host leads a meal prayer and the feast begins. So there's lots of food. There are cheeses and, salami and stromboli. I'm trying to think what else we had.
Tell us about the menu.
Lots of chocolate. We had pickled eggs, lots of just regular hard-boiled colored eggs, which we might have to do away with because of the $6.
Oh my goodness, it's so painful.
How many pickled eggs we're going to have this Easter? But and there was lots of chocolate. All of the kids had a chocolate Easter bunny at their place. Just a lot of food. Anything we could think of that would look kind of festive and yummy, we all threw in the middle of the table. So I had it on cake plates and, kind of things up high, things down low, and just as much food as we could get just on the table. So that's what we started with. And then at some point, we had the main course, which I think we did ham and roast beef and a smoked pork also, and boiled potatoes and a salad, bread. I don't remember if there was anything else, but we had to be very organized about that too. So I had a host at each table who we had everything in however many tables there were. I had that many dishes of each thing, and the host would start it on one side and it would, go all the way around that one table, and then she would catch it on the other side and take it back and then bring the next thing. So we had to be organized. You had to be organized with how to serve that many people in such a small.
Yeah.
So, and it just kind of went on and on and on. We had way too many desserts. But
that nobody ever.
So that was the next thing, but it was just punctuated. The rest of the program is full of Easter hymns and also some poems, and people could just start one out at any point, and they did, and then everyone would join in, and that's some of my favorite. I did video some of that, and it's just really lovely to hear all of these people singing together. It was just a lot of fun. I can see why Stacy, my daughter, wanted to make it a part of what we do every year.
So how long did it take you to get caught up on dishes after this whole party? And how long did it take you to catch up on sleep with the midnight feast?
You know what? That's a really good point. I'm glad you asked. People left at about, I'm thinking 1:30, 1:45.
Okay, that's not too bad.
No, they all had to be in church the next morning.
That is a limiter.
Yeah. So it lasted, and we very quickly then put the food away. I think we stacked the dishes, but we didn't clean up that night. We went to bed and just kind of left it. And one really important part to all of this is that I didn't do anything else hosting wise the next day. So I mean, if I had been having family over for Sunday dinner, that would have been, it would have killed me. You can't do that. So, but this was actually a lovely rhythm because our kids actually did come home with us after church on Easter, our married kids, and we just ate leftovers. And there was no feeling that we had to get all those dishes done immediately. Tom's he probably had rinsed them all the night before because that's the kind of thing that he would do. I would leave them crusty and so they were probably rinsed.
I feel like those two people always marry each other, though.
Thank goodness. So we took our time cleaning up. I like cleaning up after hosting. It's actually, people will often say, "Can I help?" And I genuinely mean it when I say, "No, I'll do it." I enjoy it. It's a nice feeling to put things back where they belong and to just kind of reminisce about, what happened over those dishes. So
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to do it with real dishes. There's lots of ways to simplify it. But one of the things that I did want to mention, and I think it's important, is there is just something, there's some sort of I don't want to call it magic. What would you call it? Some chemistry, something that happens when it can happen when you have an event like that. It can happen on a small scale. It can happen on a large scale. But a lot of times people, when they come to these kind of things, will say to me, "I don't have that gift of hospitality," or I could never do that. I could never pull something off like that. And what I really think that they're saying is that they just haven't learned how to set the stage for it or how to pull off that kind of a production. And that brings me to talk about something that my friend Liv, who is this Easter feast guru, and also she's great at hospitality. She said something about hosting people that had never made sense, that made a lot of sense to me. I have always said to people, it's not about the production. It's not about the dishes. It's not about the food. And I really, really believe that is true. You do not have to have all of that hoopla, all of those elements. But yet I always do it for some reason. I always say I just like to do it, but I'm not sure that that's entirely true. And what Liv said is hospitality is not fake, but it is theatrical. And she said, if you want to spin that kind of I'm going to call it magic. I don't know what else to call it. That's the wrong word, but it actually requires a set, some props, and a few lines. And even if your jam is to host extremely informal gatherings, there still is some planning and stuff to do to make it happen. You sort of have to think through the logistics. And I do it for little parties and for big parties now from start to finish. I didn't used to. This would always be Tom, again, the organized one, saying, you really should think through. And I'd be like, it'll be fine. But it saves you a lot of stress if you actually do think through. Where are people going to put their coats? How are you going to greet them? Where are you going to set the food? How are they going to throw away their trash? But the good thing about it is the more that you do it, the more it just becomes second nature.
Yeah.
So it's hard at first. There's a lot of things to think about. That's why you want to start very, very small if it's intimidating to you, if you're not a planner. And another thing I was thinking on the way over here, maybe the theater is not as good of an example as the divine service. Because there we have, the mystery, all the good stuff from God. In fact, he feeds us nourishes us on his own body and blood. He is actually feeding us at his table. But the divine service doesn't happen on its own.
Right.
And you know that if you ask the church secretary, the pastor, the altar guild, the editors of Lutheran Service Book, the custodians. I mean, there is a lot that goes into setting the stage for each and every divine service. So you can kind of think of it that way. Big or small, it will help your event. You'll feel better. You'll feel much less stressed about it if you just kind of take the time to write things out. I do it all in one book, which I brought along, which I know you can't see, but this thing is full of menus and grocery lists and all the stuff, the to-do list.
You record, so you plan it out, but that way you can also then reference it when, like, this year when you start full on planning for it, you can look at, okay, here's what we did last year, and I made a note that, hey, we had too many desserts. Okay, I can scale it back a little bit this time, and
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And it's a beautiful little book. Like, this is not just a random spiral-bound notebook either. This is theatrical in its own right.
It's true.
Hey, the things that bring you joy. It's all good. We are wrapping up our time, but anything else, any other words of advice or wisdom?
I would just say, if you're so inclined, go for it. Enjoy it. Give it a try. You can learn. I mean, hospitality is so much about learning by trial and error.
Mhm.
And so here I am. I've been married many, many years. I have had plenty of errors to, things that have gone very, very poorly, which makes it more memorable.
Oh, yeah.
And I could tell you quite a few stories about even very recent stories of things gone awry. But don't let that get in your way of figuring out how to show Jesus' love to those who need it in your church community and beyond.
Tori, this has been really fun. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And you obviously enjoy this a lot. So this has been really fun to hear all of your planning and insights. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
And we will share some of the resources we talked about. I know the program, we'll try to drop that into the show notes so ladies can look at that if they are so inspired to also do an Easter feast. It is Sharathon 2025, ladies. Go to kfuo.org/Sharathon and you can see the Lutheran Lady thank you gifts. You can also pledge your financial support for our listener-supported KFUO radio so we can keep doing what we do here on the Lutheran Ladies Lounge, on the podcast, in our Facebook group, on our Instagram page, all of those things produced by KFUO Radio. This is your chance to partner with us so we can keep doing that for a long time. You can find all of our episodes at kfuo.org/Lutheran Ladies Lounge or on your favorite podcasting app or on the KFUO radio app. You can join us in our Facebook group if you've done anything crazy for Easter or really anything else related to hospitality. We want to know about it. You can share that in the comments on this episode post in our Facebook group or on our Instagram page at Lutheran Ladies Lounge. You're listening to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Erin.
And I'm Rachel.
Views and opinions expressed on the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast may not represent the official position of the management or ownership of KFUO Radio, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. The Lutheran Ladies Lounge is produced by KFUO Radio and available at kfuo.org or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a review for us too. If you love the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast, consider financially supporting our producer, KFUO Radio, so we can keep doing what we do. Find out how at kfuo.org/give.
That went fast.
Are we
That
off?
did go fast.
You guys made me skip all around.
Sorry.
We do that. I'm sorry. I should say the questions are our prompt, but they are not our script. We like the conversation to be organic. So
Sorry.
You're doing great.
Welcome back to the coffee. Oh, it's not the coffee hour. Sorry. We don't break for the ladies.
We
lounge.
don't usually break.
Sorry. Wrong show.